thank you for braving food-induced coma and coming to learn about what's new and what's coming in API management. We'll try to keep it light and breezy, and just to mix things up, Mike and I will ping pong the topics of the session. So, first question I want to ask you guys is, who knows among you why 2024 is a special year for Azure API management? You can just shout it.
The attacking V1 August.
Sorry?
The attacking V1 August.
Okay. Anyone else?
10 years. 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been 10 years since we launched Azure API management. So we did preview in May 2014 at TechEd, and then we launched GA in September of the same year. So it's been quite a while. It was a very exciting and rewarding journey for the team, and we definitely are super grateful to customers and partners who supported and trusted us. So thank you. Now, given that it's been a journey, right? We kind of grew up with Azure. We first started on cloud services, and then we moved over to the new VMSS architecture. And now, after 10 years, for the next decade, I guess, hopefully, we are moving to a new platform, to the same platform that app services run on, logic apps run on, functions run on. So that platform allows us to address some of the important things that customers wanted us to do for quite a while. So we're excited about that. So we call this set of new SKUs that we just released SKU-v2, but you also can call them 10th Anniversary Edition. And essentially right now we have basic and standard v2 out. So we improved provisioning and scaling, so by about maybe an order of magnitude or more. So we added VNet integration in standard v2. We kept the pricing model pretty much largely the same. These are additive tiers, right? So they don't negate classic tiers. Classic tiers are still available, loved and supported. Now, we know that standard v2 does not make every customer happy. We know that customers want additional things there, private link, inbound, availability zone, some other things as well. So all of these things are coming. Standard v2 is not done, but we didn't delay release to wait for these features. So we went with what we have, and adoption data that we have actually bears this out. We see, the customers taking on this standard v2 SKU, and they are, getting value from it. And as I said, all these additional things that you've been asking for, we'll add them as we go. Now, the fact that we released basic and standard v2 might give you an impression that we are sort of forgetting about premium, right? That we don't like premium anymore. In fact, nothing can be further from the truth. We adore premium. Premium was love at first sight, and we are fully committed to that relationship, and we'll be continually investing in it. And Premium v2 is coming. And Premium will remain our sort of flagship SKU, if you will, with higher limits, usage limits than any other SKU, with unlimited calls, with fully private VNet deployments, with all the features included. We'll always receive best features, etc. So v2 is very much alive and very much on the way. Now, there is no need to rush and migrate anywhere because, as I said, classic tiers are not going away. So you can migrate or adopt new SKUs for your new workloads as you see fit, right? So there's more choices now. And now I'm going to hand off to Mike to talk about workspaces.
Yes, workspaces, one of the most anticipated features of API management. API management is a place where the API platform and API teams meet. So the platform team is that one team that's responsible for setting the infrastructure for the API teams to manage their own APIs. So the platform team sets up that infrastructure, configures it, they may also manage some of the shared resources, like for example, unified developer portal for the whole organization, perhaps shared gateways for runtime, as well as maybe set up some CI/CD pipelines for the teams to quickly jump and author their own APIs. The platform team also wants to ensure the compliance of APIs inside the organization to have them meet certain, at least minimum, quality criteria and make sure they are compliant with various industry or organizational regulations, for example, for security and privacy. Platform team may also want to implement chargebacks, so split the cost of the API platform among the teams in the organization. And the API teams, all they want is just make sure that the APIs are successful, that they evolve, that they meet the needs of the consumers, and make sure they are secure, reliable, and up and running, and serve a business purpose. So API management supports both of these types of personas, and there are 3 models how you can implement organizationally management of APIs. The first model, or the first 2 models, are the ones that have been always supporting API management. And the third model is what workspaces now enable. So the first model of management of APIs is the so-called centralized API management model. In that centralized API management model, you have a single API management service in your organization that's shared by API teams and without any control plane or runtime plane isolation. So what that means is that the more API teams you onboard on the service, the more conflicts arise between management of API configuration, maybe some circular dependencies, as well as in the runtime when one API team can, for example, cause resource starvation for all the other 100 teams in the organization. And those issues, whether they're in the control plane, CI/CD pipelines, gateway, etc., need to be resolved by the central team that owns the platform. So that central team, of course, becomes a bottleneck in large organizations. The second model is what other customers have also adopted, migrating from that centralized model, especially large customers, is where each team in the organization has their own API management service. So that team operates in their own universe, with their own gateway, with their own control plane, no conflicts between the teams. But now the problem is that you may have 100 API management services, all in production, and you run into issues with fragmentation of API programs. So there is no easy way to apply a standardized governance across all 100 API management services. They're expensive to maintain, and then, of course, there is no unified developer portal. With workspaces, we are enabling the federated API management model. In the federated API management model, you have a single API management service that's split across multiple teams. So the platform team can still have that single service experience for managing the governance of APIs and publishing APIs to consumers of a unified developer portal, but the teams operate within their own little silos that are part of that service and don't run into issues between themselves. So the federated API management model sort of combines the benefits of the centralized and siloed API management models without their downsides. So what's coming next with workspaces? Workspaces will be soon generally available, sometime this summer, probably July or August. The new thing that we're adding into workspaces is the separation of runtime plane. So not only workspaces provide the separation of control plane where you can assign permissions to a specific team for a specific workspace only, but also those teams may have dedicated runtime for APIs, which means that you can easier attribute issues in runtime to a specific team. And if there is like an outage, for example, infrastructure, or maybe even cyber attack, you contain that issue, you contain that fault to a single team only so it doesn't affect all of your organization. The runtime isolation will be implemented with a gateway resource that will be a new resource in Azure, sister resource to Azure API management that you can provision, and then you can associate the gateway resource with a workspace in API management. So once you do that, APIs from the workspace become available for runtime. And the benefit of the gateway is that it also has a control plane that's detached from the API management control plane. So if something happens to API management service, you can still control the gateway resource independently, you can scale it, you can manage it, regardless of whether API management service is up or down. So that will become soon available, and I hope you are anticipating it as much as I am and we are. And if you're interested in workspaces, this is a moment to take a photo, whether you have a phone, a camera, analog camera, camcorder, whatever. You can take a photo of the QR code and take the survey. It will take around 10 minutes to fill out, but once you fill it out, it will help us prioritize improvements to workspaces after their general availability. And here's a short demo of workspaces in action with that runtime isolation. Here is my API management service with already one workspace defined for all the teams that are responsible for order fulfillment APIs. As a platform owner, I'll create another workspace for all the teams responsible for the retail catalog APIs. Alongside with that workspace, I'll create a gateway that will host all the APIs that are managed in that workspace. The gateway will be created in the same resource group and subscription and region as my API management service, and will have the scale of just one scale unit. I can also select the network configuration for that gateway. It can be all public access, inbound and outbound, public inbound and private outbound, or all private inbound and outbound access. For the purpose of the demo, the gateway will be all publicly accessible from the internet and will reach out to internet backends. Once that workspace is created, I can now see it in my list of workspaces. This workspace is where those retail catalog teams will manage their APIs, products, subscriptions to those products, named values, backends, policy fragments, and more. They can also define logging that is specific to their workspace only, so they can easily troubleshoot issues with the APIs and investigate any problems. I can also see the gateway that was created alongside that workspace. The gateway is a separate Azure resource that has its own scale and network configuration. You can manage those configurations in the Azure portal. Coming back to my workspace, which is the workspace that's deployed to this gateway, I can now import an API into the workspace just to demonstrate how that gateway works. I'll import a sample API that we also link in our tutorials, and that API will be assigned to an open product, so a product that allows any access without the subscription key or without any other credentials. So as an API developer, I could just import very easily an API from OpenAPI specification or through other methods into my workspace, and now I can test that API. And if you notice, the hostname for this API is now the hostname of my gateway resource. It's no longer the hostname of the built-in gateway that's part of the API management service, but is the hostname of that gateway that was created alongside my workspace. I can make a test call to this API, and in fact the test call succeeds and returns 200 OK response. Of course, after the API works, I can start creating more resources and also create policies for this API, just like I can do it today in API management outside workspaces. Awesome. So in that demo, I created an open product that doesn't require any authentication for APIs. But please don't do it at home. API security is a really top of mind concern for many organizations of any size, from small to large, managing any data from any industry. In fact, there is more and more data breaches happening every year. The cost of data breaches is also increasing every year, and the APIs are becoming more and more frequent attack vector for data breaches. And you probably have seen some news headlines like the largest organizations in the world are impacted, and these are the organizations that have also the biggest budgets for API security. So we are trying to help you also secure and protect your APIs. OWASP API Top 10, a new revised list, was released last year, and we are working on documentation update to reflect that new OWASP API top 10 list. So all the controls in API management that you can use to better secure and protect your APIs from cyber attacks and reduce those attack surfaces, and also make sure that your APIs are less vulnerable than ever. So the documentation will be available later this month or in July. You can take a screenshot. It will be also in our documentation. So I highly encourage you to go through it and apply those best practices. But API management is just one part of API security. The best approach to security is like a cake. So cakes have layers. API security has layers as well. So you can use all the other security-related services in Azure with API management to make sure that the security posture of your APIs and API management is secure and good. So those services include, for example, virtual network. They include Azure Firewall in application gateway or front door. You can also use key vaults for managing secrets and certificates. You can use Microsoft Entra for authentication of developer portal users, or validation of tokens in API management, etc. One of those services that's really important is a new service that we released in GA last year called Microsoft Defender for APIs, which is part of Microsoft Defender for Cloud offering. Microsoft Defender for APIs has a very cool feature that analyzes all the traffic that flows through your API management service and runs it against more than 10 machine learning detection models to analyze the traffic for anomalous behaviors or cyber attacks that are happening in near real time. So it's able to identify those attacks. It's also able to analyze the configuration posture of your APIs. It's able to analyze which APIs are not authenticated, which APIs don't receive traffic, therefore should not be exposed, etc. And I have a very short demo as well that showcases the most basic capabilities of Defender for APIs and shows how you can increase the security of your APIs with Defender.
Today, we'll be walking through a demo of Microsoft Defender for APIs, which is a sub-planned part of Microsoft Defender for Cloud. Defender for APIs provides full lifecycle protection, detection, and response coverage for APIs that are published within Azure API Management. So we've already gone and enabled Defender for APIs for these few subscriptions here. Let's go ahead and see what different types of values and security insights and security alerts we're able to get with the Microsoft Defender for APIs. First, let's go into this API security dashboard. Here, you can get a unified view into all APIs that have been published and onboarded within Defender for APIs across all of your API management services. You can also view a summary of all relevant security insight data provided by Defender for APIs as well. So for example, let's go ahead and click into one of these APIs here. In this case, I'm in the Echo API collection, and I can see all of the endpoints found under that Echo API collection. I can also view here various security insight data for these APIs as well, including if any of these APIs are dormant, APIs that might be lacking authentication, external APIs, along with APIs that are transferring any sensitive or PII data as well. This actually integrates with Microsoft MIP Purview as well. So if your organization has used Microsoft Purview for defining any custom data classifications or sensitivity labels, those will be honored here as well. This security insight data also integrates within the Cloud Security Explorer within Defender for Cloud as well. So for example, if you'd like to run a query just to figure out which APIs you have that are both exposed to the internet and contain sensitive data, within a span of a few clicks, you can go and get a full list of all of those details here. You can see, for example, we have this insight sensitive data. You can easily also click into that specific API endpoint and see where exactly, which specific sensitive information types were found for that particular API endpoint as well. To get started with this, you can actually go to the query templates that we have here, and you'll see that we have a full list of query templates, some that are specific for APIs as well. So let me just go ahead and click clear here. And you can see that we have a couple that are available for APIs here as well. The last feature set I want to walk through is a set of runtime security threat detections available by Defender for APIs as well. So once you onboard your APIs to Defender for APIs will actually get a copy of all API traffic sent to that API and will be used to detect any malicious or anomalous activities going on for those APIs as well, with a set of ML-based and threat intel-based security detections. Here is a full list of all of the threat detections that are available today. And you can see, for example, if I click into one of them, you can see the types of data that are available within this particular alert. So for example, as I mentioned, most of these are ML-based detections. So we have to first learn the historical behavior for these particular alerts, and then we will use it to observe any anomalous or deviations from that particular learned behavior. So in this case, for this particular client IP, we learned that they only call this API 4 times in the span of a 20-minute time bucket window. And this particular alert was raised as anomalous because we saw over 640 calls, which could be indicative of some sort of password brute force or credential stuffing attack. To learn more about Defender for APIs, please do visit Defender for Cloud, and you can go and get enabled today. Thanks.
Cool. Now switching gears a little bit. By the way, are you guys excited about workspaces? Very nice. I mean, it's been a long time coming. It's been a lot of work, a lot of discussions. I'm sure you'll read about it at some point in Mike's memoirs.
Yeah,
so it's been quite a journey.
We also have engineers that are working on workspaces here in the audience. So you can also ask them any questions.
Not only workspaces.
Yeah, not only workspaces.
So policies made easy with Microsoft Copilot for Azure. So real quick, policy engine in API management is kind of unique and very powerful, but there is a learning curve, right? And some of these large policy documents are definitely hard to parse and figure out what's going on. So we've been, for a long time, we've been thinking about how can we improve that experience for customers. And most solutions were complicated, and we sort of kept trying and kept thinking. And then generative models came about. And the fact that we have textual kind of configuration for policies, right, that was a benefit, and it seemed like it's a great match. So we immediately rushed and put out what we call policy assistant, colloquially, but or sort of technically it's a couple of handlers for Azure, Copilot for Azure. So what does it do, right? It essentially does two things. It flattens the learning curve for new users, right? It allows them to actually become productive and start configuring policies really quickly. It also makes experienced users more productive, right? Because now you can actually ask to summarize a long document, the long policy document, and it will explain to you what it means and what it does, etc. So there's a bunch of things you can do there. We've been, this has been out since November. Honestly, especially given the fact that, Azure Copilot was kind of a gated preview, we didn't get a lot of usage, so now those restrictions are lifted. So we hope you'll help us by, by going to, when you're doing policy editing, let's say, within Azure Portal, try it out, start using it, and definitely provide feedback when it doesn't work as you expected or doesn't give you the answers you expected. And don't forget to actually give us additional information, contextual information, so that we can actually take action on that. And Vitaly and Andre here in the front row who worked on that, Wave guys, they worked very hard on that, so they will definitely, especially they will appreciate it. Developer portal. So there's a few improvements we made there. So first of all, developer portal became more important, right? So we see a lot more customers using developer portal than ever before. Moreover, customers seem to be very keen on making developer portal look exactly the way they want it to look. And therefore, admin UI becomes very important. And the previous, evolution of that interface was, pretty complicated to use. So we brought some design and user research talent to this problem, and we completely revamped this experience, streamlining navigation, making things a lot more clear. Now you can, from any sort of context, you can save and publish your changes and see exactly what's going on, and there's a lot of, bunch of changes there. So we hope that, those of you who are trying to customize will use this, enjoy it, and let us know your feedback. Second thing is we closed a pretty significant observability gap in the product by enabling developer portal analytics. So essentially logging information, all different kind of user actions from developer portal in Azure Activity Logs. So now you essentially can go and ask all these kind of questions, right, about the health of your ecosystem, about your API usage by developers, about your most active developers, etc. and have pretty comprehensive view of your ecosystem and sort of get some maybe business insights into how people are using your API, not just which APIs applications are calling. And last but not least, we are sort of on a journey of rethinking our strategy for developer portals, and the goal, basically end goal for us is to provide customers with a comprehensive set of options to choose from to get the developer portal up and running quickly, sort of, and less painfully. And there will be a bunch of things we're going to be talking about in the coming month. But one thing we are kind of ready to start sharing is WordPress plugin for Azure API management. So it seems like an obvious choice, right? WordPress is extremely popular, probably the most used CMS system out there. It has themes, it has all kinds of amazing features, localization, etc. Also, WordPress is a good partner of Microsoft and is very well supported on App Service, well documented, really easy to stand up. And of course, WordPress plugin for Azure API management turns that CMS into developer portal, while giving it sort of ability to display API information, provision keys, do all these things that developer portal is supposed to do, while retaining all the customization capabilities that are sort of inherent to WordPress. So for now, we are sort of building it as a kind of open source project available on GitHub very soon, this summer. So we hope you're going to try it and let us know what you think about it. And we are very excited about that step. So we recorded a little demo, but I think I'll skip it since we're running a little bit.
We're going to show you a quick demo of how.
a little bit late. I want to talk to you a little bit about this new offering that we are coming out with. It's an API management gateway. So one thing I want to kind of state up front, right? This is not a replacement for APIM, right? Azure APIM is still the solution to use for customers who want sort of an organizational level API management, system. API Gateway targets a different kind of use case. It targets use case where either within an organization, a small organization, large organization, there are teams who are looking for essentially an API gateway, lightweight API gateway, that they can use to mediate access to the APIs that they own, right, and fully operated. So, what we envision doing, right, and what we're actually working on. So first of all, it will be fully managed offering. So you don't have to install anything, right? It's basically an Azure resource you create, provision, we manage it, etc. Runtime is different, right? In this case, we are not using our sort of gateway that we built ourselves for Azure API management. We're actually piggybacking on open source Envoy runtime. It's super well trusted, super battle tested. It's has great vibrant community. It has top-notch performance. We will provide dual control plane, so you'll be able to actually manage APIs inside the gateway, either through ARM or through Kubernetes API, which is kind of cool, right? Because if you are sort of Kubernetes first, we don't have to know ARM, right, to manage your APIs. If you are sort of Azure first, you can use ARM and forget about Kubernetes. Obviously, it will, as part of Envoy, so the benefit there is that there's a huge number of built-in filters, right, that already provided out of the box with Envoy. We also will augment it with the filters that are equivalent of Azure API management policies, the ones that are actually value-added, not existing in the current ecosystem, think GenAI, think, content validation, things of that nature. Most importantly, though, customers will be able to actually build in programming language of their choice and load up their own filters, right? So it's support for, think of custom policies and API management, equivalent of that. And the other thing is, of course, we'll make it very cost efficient, so like small teams can afford it and use it. And if customer has hundreds of teams, they can sort of economically employ hundreds of gateways. So this picture kind of shows you the architecture overall. So there is blue side and green side, like hopefully you can see the difference. So the blue side is us, right? That's sort of the stuff that we manage, operate, and build. And then the green side is something that customer owns, right? So they own a Kubernetes cluster, they own services in that Kubernetes. They obviously, control and manage all these sort of Kubernetes objects within the cluster that sort of manage the applications as well as APIs in the gateway. And for Kubernetes control plane, what sort of enables the magic is this API gateway, agent that kind of observes certain annotations and CRDs within the Kubernetes and kind of pushes into control plane of the gateway itself. And of course, you can also see that, you can also do similar things to Azure Portal or ARM API as well. So that's sort of the architecture. Now, in terms of custom, if you look at the data plane itself, right, you can see that this data plane has these built-in filters, it has envoy filters, and they have custom filters that are basically just, containers that you load up into the gateway itself. So, are you guys excited about this? That's not the response I was hoping for. But anyway, so what we want you guys to do and to help us, right? If you are interested at all, please, take a picture, go to this URL. In this case, it's not going to take you 10 minutes. It's going to take you probably 2-3 minutes at the most. It's very few questions there. So will help us essentially, get some feedback from you, as well as give you an opportunity to express interest and sign up for future discussions as well as preview access. So I appreciate that.
Very briefly, just half a minute about SAP. So if you have SAP APIs in your organization, Azure API Management can help you mediate those APIs to control the consumption. So make those APIs more reliable, keep them in check, and make them available to developers in your organization. Either professional developers consume them from like logic apps, function apps, app service, or citizen developers who consume them through Power Platform using the new connector. So API Manager now supports OData APIs and SAP OData APIs. So if you have those in your organization, give it a try. And now we are done, so I just want to show you this side. If you're interested in helping us build a product and make sure that we address your needs and requirements, please take a moment to fill out those surveys, take a photo. You can do it here, you can do it at home. It should take probably around 15 minutes combined for both surveys. It will help us a lot. With that, thank you very much for being here with us, and I don't think we have time for questions.
But we'll be around, so definitely if you have any questions, feedback, concerns, we'll be here until the close, so catch us then. And thank you very much, and safe travels home.
Thank you.